I want to talk to you about something most folks shy away from. And I know at my age, many expect silence about such things. But that's the problem, isn't it? We bottle it up, thinking it'll go away. It doesn't, it grows. My name's Frank. I'm 72 years old, and I've lived through the highs and the lows of aging. There's one thing I never expected to catch up with me the way it did. Masturbation. Now don't squirm. I know it sounds like something we only whisper about, or something only younger men worry over. But I'm here to tell you, it matters after 65 too, and it can do more damage than you think. You see, like many men my age, I spent most of my life believing a few habits would never hurt me, that they were private, personal, and mostly harmless. But something changed after I passed 65. My body wasn't what it used to be. My sleep got lighter. My heart sometimes raced for no reason. My memory wasn't quite as sharp. But the worst part? I didn't feel whole anymore, and I couldn't figure out why. Then came a checkup, routine, the kind you walk into thinking, nothing new here. But the doctor, an honest one, the kind that doesn't sugarcoat things, he looked at my charts, leaned back, and said something that knocked the wind out of me. "Frank," he said, "we need to talk about what's draining your strength." He didn't mean my diet. He didn't mean my knees or my back. He meant my private habit. Masturbation. Something I thought was just part of life. He told me something I'll never forget, that after 65, masturbation doesn't do the same thing it did when I was young. He said that each time I gave in, my body lost more than just energy. It lost critical life force, hormonal shifts, neurological strain. It wore down my prostate, threw off my blood pressure, messed with my blood sugar. I didn't want to believe it, but I felt it. I was waking up tired, dragging my feet, barely making it through the day. He said it wasn't just about the act itself, it was about what it triggered. Spikes in dopamine that left me drained, hormonal dips that wrecked my mood, inflammation that I couldn't see but could definitely feel. He explained it like this. When you're young, the body bounces back, but past a certain age, the system is more fragile. Every release takes a toll. It taxes the nervous system, depletes testosterone, weakens the immune response. And the worst part? It's silent. You won't know until it's too late, until your knees ache more, your focus slips, your heartbeat flutters when it shouldn't, and suddenly you're not just aging, you're collapsing, quietly. I sat there in that chair, stunned. All these years I thought it was normal, that it was harmless. But he said there's a pattern. Men in their late 60s, early 70s, even 80s, who keep up the habit thinking it's innocent, and they start declining fast. Faster than those who find other ways to cope with stress or loneliness. He told me about studies, ones most people don't talk about, showing links between frequent masturbation in older age and issues like chronic fatigue, heart irregularities, even early onset cognitive issues. Not dementia exactly, but things like memory fuzziness, word retrieval problems, things I had already started to feel. And then it hit me. I wasn't just tired, I was depleting something deep, something essential. I had always brushed off the connection between my energy and my private time, but once I stopped, really stopped, I started to feel different. Not overnight, but slowly. My mornings didn't feel like a chore. I wasn't reaching for naps in the middle of the day. My blood pressure readings stabilized. I even felt more grounded, more present, less fog. Now I know some of you might be scoffing, maybe even laughing, but I promise you this isn't about shame. It's not about guilt. It's about awareness. If someone had told me this when I was 65, I would have saved myself years of struggle. I would have had the chance to preserve more of my strength, more of my focus, more of my life. But nobody talks about this. Not your friends, not your family. Sometimes not even your doctor. Because it's personal, it's uncomfortable, and it's misunderstood. But I've seen the change. Not just in me, but in others too. Men I've talked to, once they hear this and try cutting back, they say the same thing. "Frank, I feel like I got 10 years back." And they're not exaggerating. They move better, think clearer, sleep deeper, all from respecting that part of their body a little more. Not denying it, just honoring it, giving it space instead of indulging every urge. Look, I'm not saying you need to become a monk. This isn't about celibacy or purity or anything like that. It's about protection. You've worked your whole life, raised families, paid bills, fought battles. You've earned the right to feel strong in your golden years. But strength doesn't just happen. You have to guard it. Every choice matters more after 65. And this is one of the most underestimated ones. I've seen men my age with walkers, hunched over, spirits low, and I've seen others still working in the garden, cracking jokes, leading community meetings. The difference? It's not always genetics. Sometimes it's what they keep behind closed doors, the energy they either waste or protect. And if you're, like I was, lonely sometimes, maybe anxious, using the habit as a way to pass time or numb pain, I want to tell you that there's another way, a better way. Start by noticing. Every time you feel the urge, pause. Ask yourself where it's coming from. Are you bored? Are you sad? Are you restless? Then go for a walk. Call an old friend. Write something down. Anything that reminds your brain there's more to you than a reflex, that your body is still capable of being respected. And if you fall back into it, don't punish yourself. Just begin again, slowly, steadily, like building a new muscle. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to wake you up, because this world doesn't talk enough about senior health in honest ways, and too many of us are paying the price in silence. You don't have to be one of them. You can change this, starting today. I did, and I feel more alive at 72 than I did at 68. That's not a miracle. That's the power of restraint, of wisdom, of listening to your body instead of fighting it. I'll leave you with this. You're not broken, you're not alone, and you're not too old to take back your health, but you've got to be brave enough to face the habits no one wants to admit, to ask the hard questions, to say, maybe this is hurting me more than helping, and then do something about it. Because life isn't over at 65, it's just getting clearer. So protect what's left. Guard your energy, and don't be afraid to let go of the things that drain you. Your future self will thank you. Trust me, I know. Now let's clear some common questions. What are healthier physical or emotional outlets seniors can adopt to replace the need for compulsive self-stimulation? My friend, sit with me a moment. Let an old man share some thoughts from the worn pages of a life fully lived. Now, I won't pretend I have all the answers, but I've been around the sun more times than I can count. And in those years, I've come to understand something deeply. As we age, the body slows. Yes, but the mind still flickers with the same old fires. Desires do not simply vanish, they transform. And for many of us, the itch to fill the quiet, whether through compulsive habits or endless distractions, becomes louder in the absence of a full house, a steady job, or the energy of our youth. Some of us turn to self-stimulation as a way to feel something, anything. But let me tell you this, there are better ways. Healthier, fuller, more lasting ways to give that energy somewhere good to go. In my younger days, when the body was strong and my pride even stronger, I believed that pushing myself hard physically was the best outlet. Work until I dropped, run until I couldn't feel, and in some ways, yes, physical exertion can be a godsend. Still can. Even now in my 70s, I walk each morning with my dog. We don't go fast, we don't go far, but each step reminds me that I am alive, that my breath still fills my lungs. Movement, my dear friend, is a gift. Stretching, dancing even, if the knees allow it. Gardening, lifting small weights, practicing Tai Chi. All these things are not just good for the body. They quiet the buzzing need inside. They turn restlessness into presence. And presence, more than anything, is what most of us long for. But there's more to this than just walking around the block. Physical outlets are only one side of the coin. Emotional release, now that is where the real healing begins. In the long nights when I was alone, after my wife passed and the house felt like a tomb, I found myself grasping at anything to numb the ache. For a time it was television, then snacks, then yes, that quiet but ever-present urge to self-stimulate. Not out of lust, but out of loneliness, out of boredom, out of the hollow space where companionship once lived. It was during those dark hours that I learned something invaluable. The soul needs more than entertainment. It needs expression. I began writing. Just little things at first. Memories, dreams, letters to people I never sent. My son once said, "Dad, you should publish a book." I laughed, told him, "I'm just talking to myself on paper." But you know what? That act of writing, of pouring out thoughts onto a page, it steadied me. It gave me something to return to, like a faithful friend. Journaling, poetry, even simple gratitude lists. These things are not frivolous. They are lifelines, emotional outlets that help make sense of the ever-turning wheel of time. And then there is connection. Don't ever underestimate what a warm voice, a kind ear, a shared silence can do. In the senior center where I volunteer, I've seen the transformation of hearts simply from being listened to. Storytelling, group discussions, art classes, even just sitting in a room while others knit or paint. Human presence is powerful. When we isolate ourselves, the mind starts playing tricks. It tells us we are forgotten. It whispers that we are no longer needed. Lies, every one of them. We are always needed. Our wisdom, our stories, our laughter. The trick is to find someone willing to receive them. Music. I can't forget music. Sometimes I sit by the record player and let the old jazz wash over me. Other times it's hymns or silly songs my grandchildren love. Music speaks when words fail. If you can sing, sing. If you can hum, hum. If you can dance, even from a chair, do it. Let your body feel the rhythm again. It wakes something up in you. Reminds you of times when life pulsed through your veins like a river in spring. There's something else I must say. Volunteering, giving. These are not just acts of charity. They are medicine for the spirit. When we take our eyes off ourselves and place them gently on the needs of others, especially those younger than us or more vulnerable, something profound happens. We remember who we are. We reclaim our purpose. I started reading to children at the library every Wednesday. At first, I felt foolish. My voice cracked. My hands shook. But the way those little eyes lit up, it melted away the shame I'd carried. Service is not about grand gestures. It's about small, consistent kindnesses. Even a phone call to someone lonelier than you. That too is healing. Now I know habits die hard. The impulse to turn inward and grasp at what feels familiar can be strong, but habits can be reshaped. I replaced compulsive moments with prayer, not the kind that begs for things, the kind that just sits in quiet awe. Sometimes I light a candle. Sometimes I stare at the sky. I let myself feel, not run from the feelings, but welcome them, even the painful ones. Grief, regret, nostalgia. They are all part of the mosaic. And yes, therapy. I'll say it plainly. Talking to someone trained to listen is not weakness. It is courage. I did it in my 60s when I thought I had nothing left to unpack. Turns out I was carrying a full suitcase. I urge you, if the burdens feel heavy, let someone help carry them. There is no shame in that. So my friend, if you are wrestling with those compulsions, know this. You are not broken. You are human. The desire to feel alive, to feel close, to escape pain, that is not wrong. It just needs redirection. Replace the reflex with intention. Choose action over isolation, expression over suppression, connection over compulsion. Let your body move. Let your soul speak. Let your heart reach out again and again. We do not stop growing simply because our hair turns silver. In fact, some of the most beautiful blooming happens late in the season, and you, whether you believe it or not, are still in bloom. How can older adults talk honestly with their doctors about this topic without shame or fear of judgment? Let me tell you something straight from the heart, friend to friend. Talking to a doctor about anything that feels private, embarrassing, or heavy with history, especially when it comes to things like sexuality, self-stimulation, or emotional struggles, can feel like standing naked in the cold. I've been there, more than once. We older folks grew up in a time when certain things just weren't spoken of. We were taught to keep our heads down, suffer in silence, and push through. For many of us, shame wrapped itself around our most human urges and questions, like ivy around an old oak. But the truth is, silence only makes the roots of fear grow deeper. I've come to learn that the only way to heal Truly heal is through honest, open conversation. And that starts with learning how to speak plainly and without apology, especially with the people who are meant to help us. I remember the first time I tried to bring up this topic with my doctor. I was in my early 60s, newly widowed, and feeling a strange mix of grief and an awkward kind of desire. My wife had passed a year earlier, and I still missed her, like the sun misses the morning sky. But late at night, in the quiet, I felt that familiar pull inside me. It confused me, made me feel guilty. Was it wrong to want comfort? To seek release? I carried that question around like a stone in my chest until one afternoon, during a routine appointment, I nearly walked out the door without saying a word. But something in me, a whisper, a nudge, made me turn back. I looked at my doctor, a kind woman with tired eyes and a clipboard full of lab results, and I said, "Can I ask you something that might sound strange?" To my surprise, she smiled and said, "Of course. That's what I'm here for." That one sentence opened a door I'd kept locked for too long. I told her about my confusion, my urges, my questions. I stumbled over the words. I blushed. But she never laughed, never judged. Instead, she listened. She asked a few questions. She even shared that many of her older patients had similar concerns, but were too afraid to bring them up. That conversation changed the way I saw the doctor's office. No longer a place just for pills and blood pressure checks. It became a safe space. And that, my friend, is what I want for you. So how do we begin? How do we speak about this without shame? The first step, I believe, is reminding ourselves that doctors are not priests or saints. They are people. Trained, yes. Busy, certainly. But human. They've seen more bodies, more ailments, more odd questions than we could imagine. You are not the first to struggle with feelings about your body, your sexuality, your habits, and you will not be the last. Your story is unique, but your needs are not strange. When you remember that, it takes the edge off the shame. The second step is practicing the words before you say them. I used to rehearse in my car on the way to the clinic. I've been feeling some urges and I'd like to understand if they're normal. Or, I have some questions about my body and how it's changing. Is this a good time to talk about that? You don't need to have all the perfect phrases. Just enough courage to open the door. Once it's open, the doctor will usually help guide the rest. I'll also tell you this. If your doctor responds with discomfort, judgment, or brushes off your concern, then you have every right to find someone better. Yes, even at our age, we are not too old to be treated with respect. We are not too far gone to deserve answers and dignity. A good doctor will never shame you. And if they do, then they are not the right one for you. That might sound harsh, but trust me, you wouldn't stay in a friendship where you were made to feel small. So why accept that from someone meant to help you heal? Another thing that helped me was writing it down. There were times I just couldn't find the courage to say the words aloud. So I'd write a short note and hand it to my doctor when she walked in. Something like, "I'd like to talk about intimacy and how it's changed since aging." It's a bit hard for me to say out loud. She would read it, nod, and then we'd ease into the topic together. Writing gives your heart a chance to speak even when your voice gets shy. And that's perfectly all right. I also think we need to unlearn the idea that these topics are somehow inappropriate. Just because society didn't talk about them when we were growing up doesn't mean they are dirty or forbidden. Our bodies age, yes, but they remain vessels of emotion, memory, desire, and comfort. Sexuality is not a young person's game. It evolves. And even when we no longer seek physical touch, the emotional side of intimacy, the need to be seen, to be connected, to feel alive, is as present as ever. Talking about that with our doctors is not a sign of weakness. It's a declaration that we still value ourselves. You know, one of the most empowering things I ever did was ask my doctor for reading materials. I said, "Are there resources about aging and sexuality you'd recommend?" She handed me a list: books, websites, even local support groups. I didn't know such things existed, but they do, and asking for them made me feel less alone, like I was taking part in something shared by many, not just whispered in the corners of my own mind. Let me leave you with this thought. There is no dignity in silence if silence is causing you pain, but there is immense dignity in vulnerability, in saying, "This is what I'm going through. Can you help me understand it?" You don't need to have a script. You don't need to be fearless. You just need to start. That's how change begins. That's how healing finds us. I may be old, yes, but I've never stopped learning. And one of the greatest lessons I've learned is this. When we speak honestly, especially about the things we were taught to hide, we give others permission to do the same. So go ahead, make that appointment, look your doctor in the eye, and trust that your truth, however shaky or strange it may sound, is worthy of being heard. In the broader picture of aging with strength and dignity, what does it mean to protect and honor one's sexual energy in the later stages of life? Now that is a question worth pondering, isn't it? What does it mean to protect and honor one's sexual energy as we grow older, grayer, and perhaps slower in our step? I'll tell you what I've come to understand over the decades. Sexual energy, like any other force within us, does not disappear with age. It evolves, it deepens, it quiets in some ways, but it also becomes more meaningful. In the broader journey of aging with strength and dignity, honoring that part of ourselves is not about trying to hold on to youth. It's about embracing the full spectrum of who we are, right now, with honesty, tenderness, and a good dose of self-respect. When I was a young man, I thought sexual energy was about fire, urgency, the chase, the thrill. And sure, there is something beautiful in the hunger of youth, but it can be clumsy, often selfish, more about performance than presence. Now in my 70s, I feel that same energy in different places, in the warmth of a shared glance, in a conversation that lingers, in a memory that stirs something in my chest. It is quieter now, but no less sacred. Protecting it, for me, means treating it not as a fading ember to be desperately rekindled, but as a living flame to be nourished with care. I've seen too many good men and women shrink away from their own vitality as they age, convinced that it no longer matters. They shut that door, lock it, and throw away the key. They say things like, "That part of my life is over." But I believe that is a kind of grief we are not meant to carry. When we silence that part of ourselves, we lose more than desire. We lose a piece of joy, of creativity, of connection. Our sexual energy is not only about touch or arousal, it is also about aliveness. The spark that reminds us we are still human, still capable of giving and receiving love. I've learned that honoring it starts with self-awareness, listening to what our body and spirit are saying. Sometimes the body says, "Go slow." Sometimes it says, "Let's remember what tenderness feels like." Sometimes it says, "Hold me." Not even in a sexual way, but in a way that affirms we are still worthy of comfort and affection. Too many people our age stop touching, even in small ways. A hand on a shoulder, a hug that lasts more than a second. We forget that our skin still craves contact, not for lust, but for connection, and in honoring that need, we are protecting something vital. In my own life, I had to unlearn the idea that sexual energy was only for the young. After my wife died, I felt a deep ache, not just for the physical closeness, but for the intimacy, the knowing glances, the shared jokes in bed, the way her hand would find mine without needing to speak. I thought that was it, the last page of that chapter, but slowly I began to realize that I was still alive, that I still had something to offer. I started to see sexual energy not just as a personal need, but as a gift, something that could be expressed in new ways, through deep friendships, through flirtation that carried no expectation, through taking care of myself in ways I once thought were vain. And let's talk about that for a moment. Taking care of yourself, grooming, dressing well, smelling nice, staying active. These things are not just for the sake of appearances. They are ways of telling yourself, "I still matter." That kind of respect for yourself is part of protecting your sexual energy. It's not about attracting a partner. It's about standing tall in your own skin, feeling proud, feeling present. I also believe that part of protecting that energy is being selective, discerning, knowing that not every flicker of desire needs to be chased. When we're young, we often confuse quantity with meaning. But now the question becomes, does this connection feed my soul? Does it honor my heart? Whether you are in a long-term relationship, newly dating, or content in your own company, your sexual energy deserves to be handled with reverence. Not hidden, not wasted, and certainly not shamed. Of course, we also need to talk about emotional safety. As we age, we carry more stories, more wounds, more wisdom. Any kind of intimacy, whether physical or emotional, opens us up. And so, honoring our sexual energy also means protecting our emotional well-being. That means saying no when something doesn't feel right. That means speaking openly about needs, about limits, about comfort. Dignity in later life isn't about pretending to be strong and untouchable. It's about knowing what you need and standing in that truth with grace. One of the most powerful things I ever did was learn to talk about these things without shame. Whether with a partner, a doctor, or even a close friend, putting words to what I was feeling gave me back a kind of freedom. There's courage in honesty. There's beauty in vulnerability. When you say, this is what I feel, this is what I need, this is what I miss, you give yourself room to breathe. And that, my friend, is the beginning of honoring who you are now. I'll tell you something else. Creativity and sexuality are deeply linked. When I started painting again in my 60s, something stirred in me. A feeling I thought was long gone. Turns out, creating beauty is a way of channeling that energy. Music, dance, writing, even cooking. All of it flows from that same deep place, that place of longing, of passion, of wanting to express. Don't let anyone tell you that creativity and desire have an expiration date. They do not. They simply change color with the seasons. So yes, aging with strength and dignity means holding your head high. It means staying engaged. It means being brave enough to face the mirror and say, I am still here. But it also means honoring the fire inside you. However it burns, however it shows itself. Maybe it's in a kiss, maybe it's in a dream, maybe it's in the way you hold your own hand when the night feels long. All of that matters. Sexual energy is not just about sex. It is about life, vitality, expression, connection. Protecting it means keeping it sacred. Honoring it means letting it evolve. You are not less of anything just because the years have passed. If anything, you are more complex, more tender, more in tune with what truly matters. So carry that energy gently but boldly, with pride, with wisdom, with the full heart of someone who has lived and still has more living to do. If you liked today's discussion, don't forget to like the video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to stay updated with every video we release. And yes, don't forget to share your experiences and thoughts in the comments. Every comment is special to us. Your feedback helps us improve further. We'll continue to meet you in every new video on this channel, so until next time, take care.